Right. So what we have been discussing in the previous session was about the need of creating the abstract class and how to create the abstract class. And most importantly, how can we make it, how the process of creation of the abstract class will go. So as I said, it could go in both directions. Either you could first create subclasses and then you can think of immediately, oh, I needed a parent class because this could be reused. That's what we did. Another way, and which is of course a right way to do, is to first create the template of an abstract class and realize why you need it and what are the things you're going to need that in the specific template, and then later subclasses. So I was giving an example of Selenium. That is how Selenium was being built. First they created the WebDriver interface and then they created the subclasses implementation of that interface called as WebDriver. Right? That is the right way and good approach to do it. Right. So what we're going to do next is we are going to go to runner file. And here I have actually added these three lines which were not there before. These are just a scanner line, nothing important here. So this is just a scanner line. That means when I run it, it will prompt me for inputs. So previously we were giving inputs like this here, but now we are not going to do inputs like this here. We're going to take it from the user because we want a calculator, and in calculator we want user to provide inputs. So we need this specific lines to take read inputs from the user. We're going to change that later perhaps, but now we'll keep it this simple. Then at the top, I am printing that you need to enter operation number one, number two in this sequence. And once it does, when the user does enter these values, we are going to store them in these operations. One operations, num1, num2. Right now, the program is not that good because no matter no matter what numbers I'm sending, it will always add 2 or 3, and it will also add subtraction, also do subtraction. I'm not interested in subtraction. So all I need is that based on my commands of number and number two and operations, based on these, it should be performing the operations. So I would need to make few changes here. I'll just tell you how will rather I will just do it immediately and just I'll keep on explaining what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So first of all, I need to modify these things. This is not good because I'm hard coding it here, right? So I will put these values here. So I'll do number one and I'll say num2 here. So what I'm doing, I'm passing these variables which I'm capturing, and I'm passing this in the constructor of my class. So if I go inside, this is the constructor, and the constructor here is taking these values and it is assigning these two values to the super class which is present here, and it will save the values here. By the way, I'm not making use of these get and set, so I will just remove them because I really don't think it's a good idea to keep something which is not being used, so that your code looks cleaner. So I will go back to runner again. I have number one I have passed here, number two I passed here, which is good thing. Then I'm doing a perform operation and I'm printing the result. Okay. Now notice this get result is not present, is present in the parent class. It's not present in the subclass. So if I notice, if you go here, there's no uh, get result class here. So I'm actually reusing this get result here. This is a kind of first, and I don't really need the set also because this is not being set from outside. So no method required there. So this is get result. It will just print the result. Return the result, and that result I will get here, and I will just use it to print it. Right? The same kind of thing I'm doing here. So I'm doing perform operation here as well as here and get result here as well as here. So if you notice the abstract calc operation addition and abstract calc operation sub, there are two different objects, but they are pointing to the same parent class. So this is the advantage which you get when you actually do this inheritance concept, that the parent of this class can be used as a variable type, right? So since addition is a subclass and whose parent is abstract calc operation, I can actually make use of this to specify the type of this variable. And the same thing I am doing here. And as the example I was telling you, the same thing which you do for WebDriver driver is equal to neochrome driver in Selenium as well. right? So here also you'll be doing the same thing. Here Chrome driver's parent is WebDriver, and that's why you can specify it like this. This will help you in doing cross browser thing, right? So I don't know if you were, if you attended, all the few of you who kind of in my class previously, we have this setting called as if class that browser is equal to Chrome, then I will say driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Else, if browser is equal to Firefox, then take it as a pseudo code. So don't worry about the syntax and errors. Then it will be driver is equal to new Firefox driver, right? And the driver we initialize at the top like this, right? So the thing, what really the benefit which we are getting here is that we have defined or declared the variable once with the parent of these, and then we are directly initializing the variable at runtime. So at runtime, I am deciding this variable should get what object. So it could be at runtime, it could be a Chrome driver. This driver could be a Chrome driver type, or it at runtime I can also say it could be a Firefox type. You know what this is? Can anyone tell me what kind of object-oriented principle I'm using here, or this is being used here? No idea. So I'll say it again. I'll say it again. We have a driver of variable whose type is WebDriver, and this I am choosing at runtime to decide whether it should have a Chrome driver or it can have a Firefox or any other driver. So at runtime, this driver behavior is changed. You can specify at runtime what kind of values it could take, what kind of object it could store within itself. So this actually is an example of polymorphism, that same driver can have different forms. Either it could become Chrome driver. So polymorphism, as name suggests, multiple forms. Poly means multi, morphism kind of means form. Multi form. So it's something which can take different forms depending on the situation. And it's also called as runtime polymorphism. So there are different kind of polymorphism available. One is runtime, second is not different. So basically two types, runtime and compile time. So we'll talk about compile time also, but this is a runtime polymorphism. That is, at runtime you are deciding the what kind of object this would keep. Okay, so the same thing we will try to implement here. So if you remember, as in the slide I was talking about this, in the slide I was talking about inheritance and polymorphism. See, this is what we wanted to create. So inheritance and polymorphism, right? That is what we are trying to do here. How we'll do it? I see a common pattern that perform operation is same thing we are calling. If I'm calling perform operation on sub, which is again the same, is giving me subtraction, else it is giving me addition. So I'll try to write some logic so that I could combine these things and make a suitable implementation of it. Someone want to say something? Okay, all right. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, okay,
Yes, sir. My name is Ashutosh. I just joined
yeah.
this meeting, sir.
Hey Ashutosh, yeah, tell me.
Sir, I just joined this meeting, so
Okay, okay, just joined. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So just continue. I will just continue with the explanation, and you can, if you have any doubt, you can just interrupt me in between. Okay, and we'll
okay,
talk
sir.
about
Thank
more
you.
about use your specific needs maybe later. Okay. So
Okay, sir.
all right, I'm just keeping you mute for now. If you want to speak, you can unmute and try speaking. Okay. All right. So what I want to do here is I would like to make use of a if condition. And here, if you notice, I am also taking operation from outside from the user. So this is an operation OPS operation, and I will make use of this variable. This is a type of string. Uh, this specific variable can store only string. That's why I have mentioned here string. So if you're not very familiar about, so I'm not sure about the few of your, your background, few of you, I'm not very sure about your background. So I just assuming that you understand these variables and types. And if not, then you have to let me know. We'll talk more about it later, perhaps, but not in this today's class. So once you have OPS, which is stands for operations. So operate, or maybe I will make it more elaborate so that doesn't confuse you. Operations, it's not, there's no harm in specifying the full name of the variable. It makes more sense sometimes. It's readable. So operations dot. So now in strings, we have different methods available so that you can work with strings. So if you have a string, that means it's a sequence of text and you would like to do many things with it. You want to kind of reverse it. You want to see if it's empty. You want to see if it contains that specific string or a specific sub characters set. For all of these purposes, you can actually make use of these methods are already available, and these are given to you by the Java system itself. So these are already present with the comes with the Java, and you can make use of it. Right now I'm interested in checking if the operation dot equals ignore case. I will use equal ignore case, which will be case independent. That means uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. And if it is coming as add, then I will do what? I will try to create the object addition like this, but I will declare this at the top like this. And maybe before I actually do it, I will just tell you a basic example. So instead of doing this, I could have also done this. So I will just kind of put this into contrast to why we had to create that abstract class in the beginning. Now, second is if else operations. So else operations, if operations is sent as sub, that means subtraction, then I have to create the object called as subtraction, right? And I will also have to create the proper class name, subtraction. All right, and then I have to call these to perhaps here, and then I have to call these perhaps these three things. I'll do that here, and I will just simply print the result maybe here, right? Subtraction. This is, let me change this, and let me change this as well. All right, I will just create a result object at the top. I will say it is null for now, and I will just print the result here. And I will just remove this here from here, and I will remove these things from here. Let me just say this is a result, making use of the same variable. Okay, let's not make it null for now. All right, so I'll just remove these lines. We don't need it. So now what I did, I refactored my code. This is what called as refactoring. I thought what I written earlier was not that great, and I think this is great. So now what is, I still find a need to do some modifications here. I see there are few repeated lines here. There are repeated line for addition, repeated line for subtraction, because these are the common operations, right? And I know that I have made use of an abstraction. I have made use of an abstract class here, which I can use to specify the variable names here, right? So I will just use, I'll create here abstract calc operation. So now I will just make this variable here, and I will create a method variable as simply calc operation, right? And instead of assigning this here like this, instead of assigning this object to a variable whose type is also the same class, instead of that, I will just make use of the parent class. So I will define this here as parent class. I will remove this. All right. Then I will be moving this outside like this so that I have to write this only once. And this calc operation also, I will just make use of this here. So now my code is greatly reduced. So I have removed the need of multiple lines, and I'm making use of the same variable. And at runtime, I am deciding what kind of object I should be having there. Okay, let me mark it as null. Right? So this is, again, as I said, I was explaining in the beginning, this is an example of a polymorphism, runtime polymorphism, wherein at runtime I am deciding this variable, what is the value of this variable should be. It could be at runtime, if the user sends add from outside, it will be an addition. So it will go here and it will be initialized with the addition. If the user sends sub, that means it will come here and it will say submission. Sorry, it will initialize this variable with the submission class, right? So this is the advantage which we got because we implemented abstract calc operations. This is the advantage. All right. So let's say next time someone wants to add another operation. So let's say I want to add multiplication now. All it needs to do is it will just create a class. We'll name it as multiplication. First of all, there will be a lot of code reuse. So I will don't have to worry about all of these variables creation and everything. All I would do is I will come here and I will just change the operation. So I'll only the perform sub ops I will have to modify like this multiplication. That's the only thing which I would need to do. And if I go here, all I have to do here is I will just create another operation here called as else if, like this. I will slide here multiply, and here I will say multiplication. So this gives me enough flexibility to extend my code. All right. The simple concept which is applicable everywhere, even in our real life, is that you cannot keep things static. Things are bound to improve or increase or extend. All right. Right now your functionality is addition, subtraction, multiplication, but it will increase. Maybe sometime your client will come, I want one more operation, I want one more operation, I want this, I want that. So you should be in a position to properly enhance your code with with least efforts and at the least code changes. And these you can only do this if you actually kind of apply object oriented programming in your designs. That is the reason. See, object oriented programming is the answer to lot of problems which people faced when they used to use procedural language like Fortran or C. Why object oriented principles and object oriented design patterns came? Because there was lot of things which people were struggling with in the earlier days, and the advent of these and the introduction of this object oriented programming was an answer to many of these things. What was the problem statements? Most of the time, reusability, right? Lot of code was there. It was had to rewritten multiple times, right? When you write the same piece of code multiple times, and if you want to change the piece of code, then you have to make changes everywhere, right? Secondly, other issues could be when you want to modify a specific thing, it could lead to problems somewhere else because the code is not well divided. Everything you have tried to put everything together, so it is very tightly coupled. So you need to make, or you need to use these object oriented principles so that your code could be less tightly coupled, right? It should be loosely coupled. The right term here is loosely coupled. So that coupling also you need to kind of understand, and you need to kind of implement in your designs. So when we implemented these things, you remember, you see, when we implemented the abstract class concept, addition concepts, what lot of things we are reusing, and we have made things less coupled. There is still opportunity to decouple this further. There's still a lot of things which we can do, which we will do in the course of time. But for now, we are good enough. For now, we will not implement few new things today. We'll, of course, will do in the later classes, but for now my code will simply work. So if you notice, if I just go and just run as Java application, it will first ask me, tell me the operation number one and number two. So I will say, let's say add, and I will say 2 3. It will give me 5. It is saying sub result because I have entered here wrong. So I will write here result of the operation, which is in the variable ops, is this. So if I run this again, Where is my operations? Okay, this was operations. So if I just run this again, Java application, I will say this time, let's say subtraction, and I will say 5, 9, it's giving me -4. So 5 minus 9, it's -4, right? It's telling me what operations I sent. Even if I just run this again to validate whether I am doing it right. So I will say, oh, I mistakenly multiply. So it's giving me exception, right? Now, can anyone tell me why I got this exception? Okay, first of all, let's say your code is not working because this was not planned. I just got this error message because I made a small mistake in typing. But how do you find at which line the error is coming? So best way to do it is to try to find. This is called a stack trace, right? Stack trace means which method called first will be always be at the bottom, and then all the subsequent calls will be stacked at top of it. Right now what makes sense is this is my class. This is the classes which are present in the Java compiler, but I will need to find to I'm just telling you how you will find debug the problem. Right now this is where I find the error. So this makes sense. This is my class, I created this. I will click on this line. As soon as I click on this line, it will take me to the line where the error originated, right? Then you can do a lot of things like debugging and all that we'll not try to cover today. This was just to tell you at which line you got, how to find out which line you got the error. So let me just run this again just to tell you run as. So I will write multiply, then 3 comma 4, it's giving me 12. So it's everything is working just fine, right? Uh, Now one more thing, one more thing which I would like to mention in today's class only. So if I go back to my slide, we talked about calculator program refactoring, we talked about abstract class, we talked about benefits of inheritance and polymorphism, not in detail, but at least whatever we have implemented the use, the benefits of that, at least we tried to understand. Then we learned overriding, but we didn't learn overloading, right? And we also didn't learn overloaded constructor, but we did learn if conditions. Let's just quickly understand what these are, and then we'll just take up question answer and we'll discuss something else. So now the problem here is, as I said, we need to keep on enhancing our software. So problem here is it is only taking two digits. I want it to take multiple numbers. So let's say I want it to add two numbers, and I also want it to add three numbers. All right, so two numbers as well as three numbers. So what I will do is I will go to addition, and right now if I notice, I have I have the opportunity to only pass two numbers. I don't have an opportunity to pass three numbers, right? So what I can do is I can create a constructor which accepts the three numbers, right? This is called as overloading or constructor overloading. So if I just copy this, and if I say int num1, int num2, and so right now if you notice, there is an error because in a specific class you cannot have two methods with the same name and same arguments. But if you change the number of arguments, which is num3, let's say, it will be allowed. This is called as overloading. So this is called as constructor overloading, and the same way method overloading also works, right? Now what I want to do is I want to enhance my software so that it could now can also add three numbers. All right. So now there are a lot of things, lot of changes which I need to do. I will only make few of them, and rest I will leave up to you to think on, and we will discuss that in tomorrow's call. Okay. So first thing which I need to do is I need to enhance my abstract calc operation because it right now it only takes these two numbers. So I will say I'll add one more. I will say protected int num3 because right now I want to take three numbers. Now later you might also kind of think, what if the user want to add 4, what if user want to add 5, what if user and want to add 6, because our calculator should work irrespective of how many numbers the person wants to send for addition. So later we'll try to implement the concept of arrays and collection in this because we cannot keep on adding variables. Let's say if the user want to add 100, we cannot keep on adding 100 variables. We need to make use of collections or arrays or list in this case that we'll try to implement later. But for now, we'll keep it like this. Now we'll go back to our abstract calc operation, sorry, addition, which is kind of a subclass of this. And here we'll kind of assign this to super dot num2, sorry, num3 is equal to num3. Okay. So this is how I am explaining that, telling this constructor that if you are being sent number 3, then you need to assign that number 3 to the specific operation, which is super dot number 3 here. Okay. Now once this is assigned, I would like to perform an operation, but the thing is it is only adding, performing. So I have an perform add operation and it only takes 2 arguments, or it only adds these 2 numbers. It doesn't add 3 numbers, right? So I have multiple ways to handle this scenario, but I would leave up to you guys to decide how you will do it. Okay. I will just give few hints. Either you can just create another method. You can just say perform operations or perform operations multiple or something like this. This is really a bad way to do it, but this can still work. I'm just giving you a hint. I'm not saying this is the right solution. I'm just giving you a hint. These are the things which you can try. So I will give you full hand, right? Don't shy away from trying, from implementing anything. Just try to, implement something wherein the addition as well as multiplication, they both could actually multiply different number of values. So right now I'm sending 2, but if I send 3, they should be able to perform the operation. So right now in multiplication, actually I have, I should be changing this name. However, this is, doesn't matter because the operation is fine. Let me just change it quickly. Yeah. All right. So this is what I am leaving up to you to implement, irrespective of whether I'm sending 2 numbers or 3 numbers. I want this to be implemented in addition as well as multiplication. So you need to try out how you will implement this multiple digits or multiple numbers. Even if you want to go ahead and say, I want to create something wherein it can take many numbers with it. If you want to implement arrays list, if you already know it, I'm giving you free hand to do it. You can try it on your own, and then we'll try to discuss on the solutions tomorrow, right? So tomorrow what we're going to do is we are going to enhance it further. We are going to enhance it further to where it would accept multiple numbers. So it will accept 2 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers, 5 numbers. So what we'll do, we'll try to implement arrays here. Arrays is important to learn because it is something wherein you can manage multiple variables using a single reference. So arrays we'll try to learn, maybe not the collections, but yeah, arrays we'll try to learn definitely tomorrow. And that when arrays come into picture, we also have to learn how to loop it. So looping and arrays is our next, or maybe our tomorrow's agenda. All right. So I will call it a day today. We already have 2 sessions of 40 minutes each. Now there are around 10 minutes left, and we'll use these 10 minutes to discuss something else. Maybe your doubts, concerns, issues, and we'll talk more about ourselves or what we're going to do. And we have some new person as well. Maybe we'll try to hear from him as well. Okay. Any more questions regarding this specific thing, what we did today? Okay, if not, then I will just stop the recording for now.